What if everything you think is real isn't? How can we know what's truly real? These questions have puzzled thinkers for centuries, and they're at the heart of Alan Watts's philosophy. Today, we're going to explore the wisdom of the reality paradox, a concept that might just change how you see the world. Alan Watts was a British philosopher who played a key role in bringing Eastern philosophy to Western audiences. Born in 1915, Watts became fascinated with Eastern thought at a young age. He went on to write numerous books and give lectures that made complex ideas accessible to everyday people. His unique blend of Eastern wisdom and Western analysis has continued to inspire people long after his death in 1973. Let's start by thinking about how we perceive reality. Right now, you're watching this video, maybe on your phone or computer. You can see the screen, hear the words, and feel the device in your hands. These sensations seem real and solid, but Watts asks us to consider how much of what we experience is truly out there in the world and how much is created by our minds. Our senses give us information about the world, but they have limits. We can't see infrared light or hear ultrasonic frequencies. Our brains fill in gaps and make assumptions based on past experiences. So, in a very real sense, the world we experience is a construction of our minds. This leads us to one of Watts's key ideas, the illusion of separation. We tend to think of ourselves as separate from the world around us. There's me, and then there's everything else. But Watts suggests this division is artificial. Think about breathing. Is the air inside your lungs you, or is it part of the environment? What about the food you eat, which becomes part of your body? Where do you end and the world begins? Watts argues that we're not separate from our environment, but deeply interconnected with it. This idea can be hard to grasp because it goes against our everyday experience. But it has profound implications for how we understand reality and our place in it. Another important concept in Watts's philosophy is the dance of opposites. In Eastern thought, this is often represented by the yin-yang symbol. The idea is that opposites don't conflict with each other, but actually define and complement each other. Think about it. How could you know what up means without down? How could you experience happiness if you never felt sadness? This dance of opposites extends to our understanding of reality. Watts suggests that what we consider real and unreal are not absolute categories, but part of a spectrum. Just as light and dark define each other, our concepts of reality and illusion are interconnected. Now let's talk about the concept of now. We often think of time as a line stretching from the past through the present and into the future. But Watts points out that the only moment we ever actually experience is now. The past exists only in our memories, and the future in our imaginations. This doesn't mean the past and future aren't important, but it suggests that our experience of reality is always rooted in the present moment. This idea of now connects to another of Watts's key concepts, the self as a verb. We often think of ourselves as fixed entities, with stable personalities and characteristics. But Watts suggests that we're more like processes than things. Just as a river is constantly flowing and changing, our sense of self is always in flux. This might sound unsettling at first. If we're always changing, how can we have a stable identity? But Watts sees this as liberating. If we're not fixed entities, we're free to grow, learn, and change. We're not limited by who we think we are or who others expect us to be. Watts often described life as a game or a dance, rather than a journey with a fixed destination. This shift in perspective can profoundly affect how we approach challenges and setbacks. If life is a game, then difficulties become opportunities to learn and grow, rather than obstacles to overcome. This playful approach to life connects with another key idea in Watts's philosophy, the wisdom of insecurity. We often seek certainty and stability, trying to control our lives and environment. But Watts suggests that this desire for control can actually limit us. By accepting uncertainty and change, we open ourselves to new possibilities and experiences. So how can we apply these ideas in our daily lives? One approach is to practice mindfulness, paying attention to our present experience without judgment. This can help us become more aware of the artificial divisions we create between ourselves and the world. We can also practice seeing opposites as complementary rather than conflicting. When faced with a challenge, we might ask ourselves, what opportunity does this present? How might this difficulty lead to growth or new understanding? Another practice is to regularly question our assumptions about reality. This doesn't mean doubting everything, but rather cultivating a sense of openness and curiosity. What if things aren't exactly as they appear? What other perspectives might be possible? As we explore these ideas, we start to see the paradox at the heart of Watts' philosophy. Reality isn't simply what we perceive with our senses, but it's also not entirely an illusion. It's both solid and fluid, fixed and changing. By holding these seemingly contradictory ideas in mind, we can deepen our understanding and expand our perception of the world. This paradoxical nature of reality isn't just an abstract philosophical concept. It has practical implications for how we live our lives. If we understand that our perception of reality is partly a construction of our minds, we become more open to different perspectives and ways of thinking. We might be less quick to judge others or to assume our way of seeing things is the only correct one. Understanding the illusion of separation can lead to greater empathy and connection with others and the world around us. If we're not separate from our environment, then caring for the planet becomes a form of self-care. Helping others becomes a way of helping ourselves. The idea of the self as a verb can be incredibly freeing. It suggests that we're not bound by our past or by other people's expectations. We can continually reinvent ourselves, learning and growing throughout our lives. This doesn't mean ignoring our responsibilities or commitments, but rather approaching them with a spirit of openness and flexibility. Viewing life as a game or dance rather than a struggle can help us approach challenges with more creativity and less stress. If we're not so focused on reaching a specific goal, we can enjoy the process more. We might find that solutions come more easily when we're not forcing them. The wisdom of insecurity reminds us that change is the only constant in life. Rather than resisting change, we can learn to flow with it. This doesn't mean we never plan or work towards goals, but that we hold our plans lightly, ready to adapt when circumstances shift. As we delve deeper into Watts' philosophy, we start to see how these various concepts interconnect. The illusion of separation relates to the dance of opposites. Our experience of the present moment connects to the idea of the self as a verb. The wisdom of insecurity ties into the view of life as a game. This interconnectedness reflects a key aspect of Eastern philosophy that Watts brought to Western audiences, the idea that everything is connected. Just as we're not separate from our environment, these philosophical concepts aren't separate from each other. They form a web of ideas that can shift our entire perspective on reality. One of the most powerful aspects of Watts's philosophy is how it can change our relationship with ourselves. Many of us struggle with self-doubt, anxiety, or a sense of not being good enough. But if we understand that our sense of self is fluid and partly a mental construction, we can hold these negative self-perceptions more lightly. This doesn't mean ignoring our flaws or never trying to improve ourselves. Rather, it suggests that we don't need to be so hard on ourselves. We can approach self-improvement with a spirit of curiosity and playfulness, rather than harsh self-criticism. Watts's ideas can also change how we relate to others. If we understand that everyone's perception of reality is partly a mental construction, we might be more patient with those who see things differently. We might be more curious about their perspective, recognizing that their view of reality is as valid as our own. This doesn't mean we have to agree with everyone or accept harmful behaviors, but it can lead to more compassionate and productive interactions, even with those we disagree with. The concept of the dance of opposites can be particularly helpful in relationships. Often, we see conflicts as problems to be solved, but what if we viewed them as part of the natural rhythm of relationships? Just as day and night define each other, perhaps some level of disagreement or tension is a natural and even necessary part of human interaction. This perspective doesn't mean accepting abuse or staying in unhealthy relationships, but it can help us navigate the normal ups and downs of relationships with more grace and less stress. Watts's philosophy also has implications for how we approach work and creativity. If we view life as a game or dance, work becomes less of a burden and more of an opportunity for self-expression. We might find more joy in the process, rather than focusing solely on the outcome. This playful approach can also boost creativity. When we're not so attached to achieving a specific result, we're more open to unexpected ideas and solutions. We might take more risks and be more innovative, knowing that failure is just part of the game. The wisdom of insecurity can be particularly valuable in today's fast-paced, ever-changing world. Many of us feel overwhelmed by the pace of technological change, social shifts, and global challenges. But if we can embrace uncertainty, we might find it easier to adapt and thrive in this changing landscape. This doesn't mean ignoring real problems or not planning for the future, but it suggests that we can hold our plans and expectations lightly, ready to adjust as circumstances change. We might find that this flexible approach actually makes us more resilient and effective in the long run. As we explore these ideas, it's important to remember that Watts wasn't advocating for a specific belief system or way of life. He often described himself as a spiritual entertainer, encouraging people to think for themselves rather than accepting any philosophy uncritically. In this spirit, it's worth considering how Watts's ideas resonate with your own experiences and beliefs. Do they challenge your assumptions about reality? Do they offer new perspectives on your life and relationships? Or do you find yourself disagreeing with some aspects? Whatever your response, the goal is not to accept or reject these ideas wholesale, but to use them as a starting point for your own exploration. Watts's philosophy invites us to question our assumptions, to look at the world with fresh eyes, and to consider possibilities beyond our usual ways of thinking. The wisdom of the reality paradox. Let's return to our opening questions. What if everything you think is real isn't? How can we know what's truly real? Perhaps the answer lies not in finding a definitive truth, but in remaining open to the mystery. Maybe true wisdom comes not from having all the answers, but from being comfortable with the questions. As Watts himself often said, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. So what do you think? How does the reality paradox resonate with your own experiences? Has this exploration changed how you view reality, yourself, or your place in the world? We invite you to continue pondering these questions and to share your thoughts and insights. The goal isn't to reach a final conclusion, but to keep exploring, questioning, and growing. In doing so, we might just discover new depths of wisdom and understanding, both about the world around us and within ourselves. Thank you for joining us on this philosophical journey. We hope it sparked your curiosity and opened up new ways of thinking about reality and your place in it. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep dancing with the paradoxes of life.